I think there's a way Jake Paul can beat Anthony Joshua. Now, before any of you guys attack me and call me a dumb casual, I should start this video by saying that I picked AJ for this fight and think he's absolutely going to smash Jake Paul in. But this is boxing and anything can happen. This means there is a slight chance that Jake Paul can pull off the upset of a lifetime, and in this video, I'll be talking about how I think he can do it. Now, a lot of people have been wondering what Jake Paul's strategy for this fight could be, and honestly, there have been some good ideas thrown out, which highlight certain weaknesses to expose in this fight. One of the key facts about this fight is that AJ and his team will definitely be underestimating Jake, and who can blame them? This guy was the best heavyweight on the planet and isn't that far out of his prime, whereas Jake is still yet to prove himself past a regional level. That being said, underestimating Jake won't suddenly make Jake any better, but could make AJ worse. AJ has a tendency to drop his defensive technique when he believes he's in a stronger position. When he's taking someone seriously, he comes in behind a strong high guard, uses his feints, and is careful with his range control, making sure to fight at his range and not letting anyone come in close. By underestimating Jake, he may get lazy with the jab, stand tall whilst firing shots, and neglect his defense at crucial moments. Jake Paul's overhand right also has knockout power and could be capable of catching AJ when he loses focus. We already saw an example of this in AJ's first fight with Andy Ruiz. AJ fought smart and managed to hurt Ruiz in the third round, but he mistakenly believed that the fight was in the bag. He started fighting with his chin lifted and walked in a straight line. Ruiz managed to take advantage of this by staying compact and punching in between AJ's punches. Ruiz managed to catch AJ with a short left hook, and from there, AJ crumbled. AJ would go on to admit that he got careless, and it's clear that he underestimated the danger he was in. We also saw a similar pattern where he fought Daniel Dubois and came into the fight underestimating him, stating that Dubois wasn't on his level. Dubois managed to land an overhand right within the first round of their fight to drop AJ. AJ was falling apart from this point and would get caught later on in the third round, getting dropped by a left hook. In the fifth round, AJ finally managed to land a massive right hand, but then made the mistake of throwing a long uppercut with his chin lifted in the air. Dubois saw this opening and threw a counter right hand, switching off AJ's lights for good. The mark of a true champion is to be able to adapt to any situation and hold composure. When things are going well for AJ, he's able to cruise to a comfortable win, but as soon as things aren't going according to plan, he starts to crumble and fall apart. If Jake is able to somehow get him to this point of making mistakes, he could possibly find the right opening to pull off an upset. Now, that being said, AJ overlooking his opponents isn't his only weakness. He's large, explosive, and powerful, but his muscle mass comes at a physiological cost. His cardio has always been dodgy, and we've seen it in multiple fights. He also fights in bursts of big counters, heavy combinations, and explosive footwork. These explosive movements burn oxygen faster. If AJ comes out to try and chase an early KO against Jake, he risks gassing out early and slowing down as the fight progresses. This means that Jake's main game plan should be to survive the early stages of the fight long enough to catch AJ with a clean counter. We've seen AJ's questionable gas tank in a few fights, like his first fight with Vladimir Klitschko, where AJ managed to hurt Klitschko in the fifth and emptied his tank. He then spent the next 2 rounds with his hands low, trying to regain his energy. In both his fights with Usyk as well, he tried to keep up with Usyk's movement, but Usyk managed to come out stronger during the last few rounds because AJ just couldn't keep up with his activity levels. Once AJ gasses out, he's historically become a fragile target because he's hittable and slow. I want to highlight that although AJ has been shown to get tired in the past, it's against world-class boxers. Even a tired AJ would probably still be able to plaster Jake Paul. We've also just found out that there is a no rehydration clause in place. This is a rule in boxing where a fighter can't gain too much weight after a weigh-in. Normally fighters weigh in the day before, so they have 24 hours to refuel and fill up. They can drink as much water and eat as many carbs as they can to restore electrolytes and refill glycogen. This results in fighters gaining 8 to 20 pounds of water weight back. There has been a limit of 245 pounds put in place, so if AJ comes in at 245, he can't weigh more than 245 the following day when they fight. This will mean that AJ will be in a more drained, flatter weight in order to meet the demands of the contract. For much of his career, AJ has always been big and strong, but for the first time, there's been a limit placed on how big he can be. This means he won't be the same powerhouse we usually see at 255, but a more drained and flatter version of AJ at 245. By draining him, it also results in him having a slower recovery in between rounds, with lactic acid building up faster, causing his muscles to tire quicker. His explosive power will also drastically reduce over time, and most importantly, his punch resistance will drop. Jake, on the other hand, is much smaller at 200 pounds and won't have to worry about any weight problems. He can come in at his best with recovery being on point. And with that concludes our simple but effective game plan for how Jake Paul can beat AJ. There's probably a lot of things that I've missed, but I think generally this covers all the weaknesses that AJ has shown which can be exploited by Jake Paul to get the win. As far-fetched and unrealistic it is for Jake Paul to knock out Anthony Joshua, I think this plan follows the game game plan Andy Ruiz used to pull off the upset against AJ, and although Ruiz is significantly better and more accomplished than Jake, he's still a shorter fighter who managed to beat the larger and stronger AJ. I think if Jake is able to put together a game plan from the mistakes AJ made, he could put up a decent fight. It's unlikely that Jake will be able to win because someone like Andy Ruiz has a rich skill set and he was able to pull off the upset and rightfully get crowned as the heavyweight champion, but Jake doesn't have that. He's not a natural heavyweight coming in at cruiserweight, and it's clear that this fight is just a money grab. The best case scenario for Jake Paul would be to somehow survive AJ's early attacks and make it to the later rounds. At this point, AJ might start to get tired, carelessly leave himself open for Jake's overhand right. This is pretty much the only way he wins, but realistically, AJ will probably come in behind a high guard, break Jake down before finishing him early on into the fight. As soon as he hurts Jake, he's going to go for the kill, and this fight probably won't go past 4 rounds. I can honestly see Jake getting battered, forcing his corner to throw the towel in to save him from unnecessary damage, and this might be the easiest paycheck of AJ's life. As much as I would love to see this fight happen, I'm really doubtful that it's going to go through. This is because there's always something that causes fights to get cancelled, and I really won't believe this is going to happen until I see both of them in the ring. As much as I've disliked Jake over the years for him being a disrespectful clown who fights retired old men for easy paychecks, I've got to hand it to him. He's really putting his life on the line with this one. He was supposed to fight Gervonta Davis, but that fight fell through because Tank got involved with a civil lawsuit from his former girlfriend after she claimed that there was multiple instances of violence, including battery and kidnapping. He could have very easily found himself a random journeyman to fight as a replacement to Gervonta Davis, but he went and found possibly the hardest fight he could get. This also happens to be the biggest paycheck he can make because everyone wants to see heavyweight boxing, and who better to watch than the former world #1 who's only a few years out of his prime. This is definitely a fight that's good for boxing because the general public is talking about this fight, which means it's exposing boxing to the whole world. People who know nothing about boxing will watch this fight and gain an interest in the sport, which means more of your favorite fighters will make money. Let me know how you guys think this fight will go and what fights are you looking forward to.